So in recent weeks and months, and certainly after posting quite some videos on the way I believe Chopin meant his works to be played, our channel had the honor of counting amongst its almost 17,000 subscribers a few pianists with a clear tempo mission. A small group of musicians arrived who seemed to have made a self-promise to never ever accept even the slightest different view on classical music compared to the classic performances they are used to. Well, to be honest, that's not entirely correct. They seem to embrace every new theory or musician, if only it points towards a faster version. They even fall on their knees for digitally sped up performances, and I'm not kidding here, which they will accept as a temporary solution as long as the unreachable goal of insane and inhumane speed remains forever at the horizon. Even if it takes generations to come closer to what they envision as the ultimate technical powers Beethoven, Chopin or Liszt possessed, but we, poor musicians of the 21st century, somehow lost. That group will reject all traces by default if they lead us to an historical slower performance, as I believe was the case 2 centuries ago. It's what I like to call the post-industrial syndrome. Embrace everything that goes faster, louder, bigger, higher, quicker, and reject by definition everything that points towards another direction. Even if it's on something that's been made in a pre-industrial age, by definition, in a slower era, so to speak. Psychologically, this principled rejection of changes that deny the starting points of the industrial idea is rooted in a kind of fear to accept that our model of technical progression has come to an end. And in combination to this, the sometimes very harsh reactions, often with the single goal of trying to hit me with as much emotional mud as possible, can be only explained from the shock caused by the awareness that that magical generation of musicians that appears to be sent directly from heaven become human beings, at least in technical respect, just like you and me. And to be completely clear here, I'm not talking on the regular comments I get where people ventilate their initial shock and doubts when first realizing there might be a completely different truth under the musical horizon. It's perfectly normal and understandable that certainly if one touches iconic music like Chopin etudes, for many the first reaction is that of rejection. If I couldn't handle that, I would strongly advise myself to leave social media at once, since if your goal is to make a difference, it's normal that the musical community will show some wrinkles. No, I'm talking on that handful of musicians or pianists in particular, who come in with their obviously nonsense comments, formulated in a way I wonder if they would verbally repeat those words when we would meet in person. The pattern is always the same. Reject this double beat theory by definition, not by the power of arguments. Never, ever taking my specific arguments for that specific topic in that specific video as a starting point. Some continue by using pseudo-arguments, quoting a few lines from a random 19th century source that is not directly related with the subject, but somehow magically show me all wrong. And when I do take the time to address their concerns, and certainly after a few times when it becomes clear I'm not about to change my mind, they all develop that strange need to hit me emotionally. It's something I do not understand, not that it keeps me awake either. After a few years on YouTube and especially Facebook, I became an elephant in this regard. The most honorary reply was given to me recently by a complete video that had the impressive ambition to prove me wrong on every aspect. Honestly, I was charmed by the idea someone took the time to address his concerns in a real video. That's how it should be done, of course. Stop reacting and start acting. But my disappointment was proportionally to my expectation. But most shockingly, The author, judged by what he ventilated, did not take the time to study even the more recent videos I made on that burning topic. It is simply beyond my understanding that apparently not even the 3 hours of live Q&A I did on the Chopin topics was involved. Those Q&A videos, they are a perfect format to address in detail and in the most nuanced way the topic we all care about. If the subject is so close to you, and if you really want to participate in the discussion, why not take the time to study first what your opponent has to say in detail? The most astonishing moment, however, of that video was the statement that I avoid all slow movements. That's weird, knowing that there are at present at least 20 slow movements in double beat on my channel, the Mozart München sonatas even being served at the top playlist of my channel. But when this ignorance, or laziness perhaps, is presented as a hard fact, out of which the apparent conclusion is made that I avoid all slow movements because double beat of course doesn't work, how would you expect me to take such an attempt serious? Tempo research is a difficult field of study. And without saying that I'm good at it, which is far from the truth, I am the last person to claim the metrical theory is without any difficulties whatsoever to solve. The problems on the side of the single beat are far bigger though, starting with the thousands of ridiculous, grotesque, hilarious or simply unplayable metronome numbers, but an attitude like this, where people only are looking for that one misplaced comma to be able to break down an entire thought process, is eventually forcing me to play on the defensive side, and that is the last thing I want. Things that need to be addressed, and exactly on those live streams where I answered your questions, I have proven, just by the nature of the format, it's live, that I'm not going those issues out of the way. If historical metronome numbers are to be taken seriously, and I believe we all agree on this, since why else would we have a discussion, and your claims are that single beat was used throughout all times for Beethoven, Czerny, Moscheles, Mendelssohn, Schumann, Hummel, Schubert, Weber, Ries, you name it, why not actually play according to what you claim obviously is the historical truth? You should realize that I point you to the core of the problem, which are indeed these thousands of problematic metronome numbers we have. So I'd say play, play, play. And again, play. I do care a lot about the hundreds of comments I get each month, sharing impressions, questions, personal experiences, and so on. But of your black and white attitude, often hitting below the belt instead of focusing on the issue, I couldn't care less. It'll bring nobody closer to any truth whatsoever, and that's my last word on it. Sorry to have spent time, guys, on a segment that actually does not bring us any further, but you have reached out to me in such numbers to make a statement on this, not remain silent, rightfully I believe, that I decided to listen and do so. And now we move forward. There is a new source on its way that will make your hearts beat faster. I know it's contradictory in our search for historical tempi, but yes, your hearts will beat faster. Even a lot. I promise you that. So stay tuned. See you soon again.